Hi YouTube! I really love PowerApps and the way it makes it possible to transform my ideas into great apps. When I started building PowerApps in the beginning of 2018, I noticed that finding good sources on smart building solutions for PowerApps was very hard. That's why I started making videos of my own, to share the things I learned when working with this great tool to the rest of the community. If you enjoy my video, then subscribe to my channel, so you will get notice when I post other videos. And of course like the video so other people who are trying to learn PowerApps will be able to find them. In case you don't know me, my name is Paul Kroon, and now let's go on to PowerApps to learn some stuff. Hello guys, welcome back to this fourth part of our mobile app template. And today we're gonna build UserForms. And in the last video I built layers, and I think they are different because layers are more to show things or to have our base application, and UserForms are really to add or adjust our records. So basically we're gonna trigger different events with layers or UserForms. That's why I want to have them separated, so I know what I'm doing. So let's go to PowerApp and let's build some UserForms, and I'm gonna show you how this works. Now this video is gonna be far less time consuming than the previous video, basically because in the great part we're gonna do some of the same tricks as we did before. So let's go on. Now we have our app from the last time and we have our layers, and let's reorder them and send them backwards till right after the UserForms. And this is gonna be our basic structures, and maybe the layers, you can say this is a container with all our layers. This is a container with all our UserForms, and this is the container of all our events. So let's look at them like containers. And with the enhanced grouping, it's a little bit difficult to drag the controls around because it's still in preview. But that's why I bring it first to the front to make my changes. And let's set it visible, because we earlier set it invisible, so we can start doing our things we want to do. So let's first take a group template and paste it in our user form. And let's rename this and say this is gonna be our UF 00 template 1 or 0. So this is gonna be our template later on. And let's go to our layers and say we want to copy this base controls. And yes, I will copy the same controls again, because basically I think it's nice to have UserForms with a back layer behind it and its own controls. And I know I then have to manage two parts of our app, and of course I could do the UserForms in the layers and use those controls and put a submit button in, but I choose to have a base for my UserForms. So it's just basically a choice. So let's rename this to UserForm, and let's do it 000.1. And the return button we ain't gonna need. Let's select all these controls and for now set them to visible. Now, I think for a user form we don't need a header, but we need these three controls. So let's first rename them to userForm headers.1. Rename this one to UserForm futher.1. And this is our UserForm layer.1. And why the .1? It's basically because when I duplicate this screen and I want to build another screen for my templates, it's gonna take some while. It's basically gonna put everything to it too. And for a template, that's nice to know. So let's delete this one and carry on. So now we have our layer at the background, and this is still set when it's good. Let's see, to the fill of our screen, and this should be visible. Now, this shouldn't always be visible, but we're gonna do that in just one moment. So let's have our back layer and insert a control, and I'm gonna do an exit, so an cancel button. I'm gonna make it the same in height and width as my control and give it a padding of 15 again, and go to the control, and this is the same as the other one, so you should recognize this steps. We're gonna do a color the same. So now we have a icon. Let's rename the icon to UF exit. That one. And then go to the onSelect statement here, because I want to have a variable to trigger my user form. And we're gonna do basically the same in updating a concept. Let's call it UserForm show and say this has to be 0. And we want to have a title for the user form. Let's set it to 0 and have a user submit button title and set it to a blank string also. So we basically reset all our user forms. Now go to the container of the user forms, so the parent group, and say the visibility here, and here we're gonna use our variable. So we're gonna use the UF show, and we're gonna say as soon as it's bigger than 0, we want to show a user form. And you see now it's invisible. So let's do something about that. Let's go to here, or first let's take this button, copy this. Let's align it, and you see I'm using the alignment and these parameters basically because it's not possible to drag my controls around because it's not in the top. So I do it like this for this moment. Let's rename this to user form and go to the onSelect statement, and we ain't gonna do the L show, we're gonna do the UF show 1, and let's call this our first user form, and say the submit button we gonna leave blank because I'm gonna do something with that, so you're gonna see in just one moment. So let's first trigger this one, and now you see our controls are away because our user form layer is visible in this moment. Let's see if this, we don't need home, or we don't need to see it. I think we don't even need it, so let's get it out. So now we have a nice design for a user form. Now here we still have our text connected to the UF of the L title, so let's set it to the UF title and say user form. And now you see our text appearing, our first user form, and I think that's okay. Okay, what we need in a user form is a submit button. So let's build that. So insert a button. Let's say the button should be here at the X parameter of 0. Let's do the width the same as the parents. And let's make a nice button with some other colors. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna basically say set this to 0.1. So we have a nice transparent button. Let's do the color. Let's set it to the UF header 1 dot fill. So it's gonna be the same gray as our fill, and we have a nice button. Maybe we want to also say we want to have a border, and the border color. Let's see the border. Okay, now it's white now, very white. I think it's nice when we take the radius away. Let's look one time. So we have a nice transparent button, and it's gonna be dark when we hover over it or we select it. It's gonna be nice. Now let's look at the Y parameter. So let's say this should be parent.height minus our footer, and it's gonna be our UF footer dot height minus, let's put it 30 above the footer, and let's do itself button for dot height. So let's first rename this to UF submit dot 1, and let's do reorder a little bit and send it backwards under the header and above the footer, so it's on the right place and easy to find. So now it's nice beneath in the header of our footer. But let's say that sometimes we don't want to show our footer because we need more room at our user form. So let's do an if statement, do the condition or the logical test on the visibility of our footer, and when it's visible we want to add the height. So when we set this to false, then the button is going down, and you see right under the top. I don't want the button to be on the top, on the bottom, because then it's maybe not gonna work very well on the screen of a mobile app. So never put something all the way to the top, because else you maybe enter other controls while hitting your button, and I think we don't want that to happen. So let's put this true. Now we have our variable, so let's do this already. Let's take these 4 controls we want to use, and then say UF show should be in -1, and let's surround that with a negative. So as long as it's not in -1, it's gonna show, and probably we're gonna show these controls always, but sometimes maybe we want the footer later on to say, okay, we don't want to see you when it's 1. And I'm gonna show you with another example on how we can enhance this tricks to get great controls. So now we have our backend ready. So let's create our template, and first let's go to the Y parameter here and set its starting point to the header1.height. So it's right under our screen and not blocking our icon. So here we're gonna UF header1.height. It's gonna be smaller. We're gonna have a UF footer dot height. Or let's do it different, because this will always be right above our submit button. So let's do this minus and do a parenthesis, and then do parent.height minus or UF submit dot y. So basically it's gonna take everything under the Y of the button away. So easily when we set this to an false, for example, our control is going to get longer. I think this is good. Let's check one thing, and I didn't check this before, so it's gonna be a blast what this is gonna be. It can do minus. UF header high minus parent. It's still there, so basically let's do this. If submit dot visible, comma, and now it works straight. So it's without the submit and the other things. We can make a box only to show some information, for example, or use other controls we don't have in our base. Okay, this is nice. So let's get this away and let's get this away. And now our template gonna be right above our button. So let's copy this and say this is our UF1.1. And let's rename this to UF000. This form, why is there no visibility? So let's say UF show in -1. For the next time we're gonna copy this and do the same here, only say this is in 1. Why do I do this and not just an is sign? Because maybe I want to go to this user form with another number, let's say 31, and maybe I want to store those numbers then in a variable, and then when I go back from this screen, then I come to the right screen I was working on. I don't think it's gonna happen ever, but it's nice to keep notice of these kind of things. So you build code which you can reuse and alter later, far more easy than what we normally would do. Let's say in the Boolean, make a variable with Boolean and you are making 10 or 20 or 30 variables for all your controls. Do a number like we do, and then you just need one variable, because let's say there are not gonna be 3 screens visible at the same time and working for you. So a number is a good thing then. So let's say we have a user form and we want to insert a text input, just because we can. And let's then go to the button and say to this button a little bit the same as this. So let's copy this formula, go to our button, text property, text, and say we want to call it submit, and not UF, but UF S title. So in this moment this is empty, so it's going to be submit. And let's make this a little bit more prettier with doing an icon and a check icon, for example. Let's say this should be 70 by 70 and have a padding of 15. Let's get our submit button and say we want to align it on the button, and let's see where the icon lives at 40. Okay, I think this is 30. Okay, this is nice. Now we have a submit button. So let's rename this to let's call this submit button button. And let's copy this and rename this to submit button icon. Let's take those two and say we want to group those. And now we're losing them. Sometimes this happened. I don't know why, but maybe it's, oh, let's see. Maybe it's because we haven't got them together. No, that's not the thing what happens. I don't know why this is, but sometimes this ain't going wrong. What you then can do is go to the controls, add in a group, drag it or set it to 0 and a height of 72. And 72 I will explain in just one moment why I do this. Parent.width. So let's take the parent.width. Basically do on the y parameter. Hey, the y is gone. Okay, we changed it already. So that's the reason. Let's put it in there. Drag it a little bit down, or first rename it. And then the group is called like this. Let's do the visibility here true and put this on our group. Did we do more? The width, the y. Okay, now why the 72 on the group? Because here I want to add a 2 to the y. Why do I want to add 2 to the y? That's because when I have borders, I won't see them when it's 0. They disappear. I don't know why, but that's the case. So we're working around this. So let's now put the y on the parent's height minus footer footer dot 1 height, but only when this is visible. So let's do like if visible, then we want to edit, we want to have 30 of it, and then or you have submit dot height, and there it's on the right spot yet again. So now we have made a little bit nicer looking submit button with a submit button and a control. Now let's say when people push on the icon, we want to let something happen. So let's just say submit button, and let's select that. So we only have to do our formulas here, and we're going to do that in just one moment. So we have UF1 with a text input, and it's going to be shown in 1. And we have a text input, and let's see what our variable is. So UF show is 1. So basically this should be visible. And let's give this a border so we can see it. It's strange that we can't see it in this moment, because we should see this control. Let's insert a button also. Oh, I can't seem to see everything. So let's first take this out, do the user form, but we ain't seeing buttons. So let's delete this one and copy another one again. Put a label in there so we can. Oh, I understand already. Here, there's something wrong with the height. Because we don't want the button's height, but we want to have the submit button height. So that was what basically was the problem, that we changed something and we didn't look at the properties from the height. So now when we put in a label, we basically should see it if we set the visibility to 1. So we're gonna see some text, and let's say we want to have a input box, and for this gonna be our first form. So we can close it and we can open it. Now let's do something on the submit, so you can see how this works, and we basically gonna do the same tricks again. Let's first say we want to select our UF exit.1. So when we select it now, our user form closes because basically it's gonna trigger this button. Now do something before we trigger our button, and let's use the switch for this also. Let's close our formula, enter. Let's switch on the 1 and say update context. Let's call this sample 1, and let's take the text input to .text. Let's see what I am doing wrong, because it's yelling at me. Okay, of course I should set my parameters, which is the switch value. So we have the U of show. If it's 1, we're gonna update context, and then we're gonna exit. Basically, when we have a user form, we normally gonna exit like this. So we can just do this. Let's do one addition. Why this? He wants to have something. Oh, let's add a comma here. So let's do something extra on the submit button, because now when we do our logic, it always going to go to the exit, and we not always want that, because we want to do some validation on our user form. So let's put an update context above here and say validate form, and let's set it to true. So basically what this means, when the validation is true, let's go on. So let's use this variable and here do if validation form, then select. So basically we're gonna set a variable to true, and as long as it doesn't change here in all our formulas, then this is gonna be true, and the select exit is gonna trigger. As soon as we do some form validation here, and with the form validation set this variable to false, then this select ain't gonna happen, and we stay on our user form. So let's see if this works. So we have text inputs and we submit. Let's add a label and here do simple 1. So we have the text input. Let's change this. And put this text input to our first screen. It's strange that it's still, oh yeah, change this. We go back, we have changed this. So now we can do formulas here, and this is very basic one, just set a parameter, but we can do all kinds of things. We can first do a part to validate our form and validate our controls, that we have numbers or whatever we want to add to our insert statement we're going to do later, or our update statement. And after our validation, we can say, okay, now do something. And let's presume that we have validation of some forms and it doesn't work. So let's say, to show you how this works, let's say here we gonna say update context, validate form is false. So behind 1, let's put this down. And I have this a lot of times that I get formulas in when I do tab, and it's very frustrating. But okay, we live. So we're gonna do a sequence. So let's say if validate form, then do an update. So let's see if this works. So we submit, and you see this doesn't change. Is this also? Let's submit and first go back and see that our variable isn't set yet. Now let's change this, arrow this out, and now this is changed also. So in this way, let's show one more thing that it's really is working like this. So let's run this, get the also away, and now it doesn't submit and it doesn't change. So when we go back, oh, we changed something with our variable, but normally this would change, would still standing there. This would change also, and it wouldn't change at all. So now let's presume that we have orders, order details, order lines, and then here we want to have a user form where we can change the order lines. So that's pretty simple to do. Then we go to our control, that's the 13 and the gallery, and we say on select. And you see I'm gonna do basically just the same. UF show. Let's call this 11, and UF title, say edit order line, and UFS title, save changes, for example. So now we have a trigger. We only have to set these parameters, and let's click this. We have our backend with the save changes and the edit order line. Now we have to add a user form. So let's copy this control, put it in the top, rename it to user form 11.1 And this we're gonna rename UserForm 1.1. And let's put on some controls like order number, label width, one, two, three. Then we can say here when we have 11, we want to change this, for example. Example 1 should be the label. Let's take the label 6 or something, label 6. It doesn't really matter, but it's just because the sample is gonna be the same as the text later on. And here we need a comma. So now when it's 11, it's gonna update the context sample to label text, and then it's gonna validate it's still true, and it's gonna exit. So let's exit. Let's go there again. And I forgot one thing. And of course this, we should take the group and set the visibility to 11. So now we have all the numbers and all the controls we have, and we can save for changes, or we can go there and exit. And that's all, I think, in UserForms. So, and I use 011 because it's the same as the 011 range of the L011 range I used on the order. So I know this UserForm 011 belongs to the orders, and when I would have an account group or UserForm, I should only say 21 like this, and then I know 11 is belonging to the orders and is a form to change something there, and the 21 is an order for the accounts or a form, and it's to change something in the accounts side of things. So now we have one thing, last thing to do, and that is to go to the home button, reorder it, and bring it backward right or above our layers. Now, let's one time run our app. We go to home, we have our first layer, we say we have a user form, change this, we submit it, and probably we still, let's go to the user form, oh no, to our user form, to our submit button here, and blank this out because the validation is killing us in this moment. So let's submit. We have changed this. We go to the orders. We have order number 1, 2, 3, and if we save changes and we go to the home, this is set to our variable. And of course it could be every formula you want and every sequence of formulas you want to adjust, and also triggers, which we're gonna do later when we go on in this series. So I said it was going to be a smaller video, but you see we still have a lot to tell about the things we do and why we do it. So it became a larger video at the end. But I still hope you enjoyed and you like these techniques on building layers and user forms, and I hope to see you in the next video where I'm gonna really make a very nice number keys element to my app, because now when I put somewhere numbers in, I get a text screen on iOS, and on the Android I also get my text screen with the advantage that I have my numbers in the top basically, and I just want to add numbers, so I really want to have a number key, and I'm gonna make this in the next video, and I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. This brings us to the end of this video. Again, if you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to my channel. and get a notice on other videos I'll be posting. And of course, like and share the video, so other people who want to learn PowerApps will be able to find it and use it in their quest. My name is Paul Kroon, and I hope you learned something today. For now, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.